Like, go to training and then wait, and then go to training and then wait for this and wait for that and wait for this and wait for that. But at the same time, every step of the way, you're learning, you're growing, you're experiencing new things, so it's worth it. Honestly, I'm telling you, Air Force, Air National Guard, 2 thumbs up, it's amazing. Hey guys, so I'm coming up on 3 years in the military. My enlistment date was November 27th of 2013, and gosh, I've never made a video about my military career. I enlisted as an Airman First Class, and from basic training to technical school to getting selected as an officer to going to officer training school to now having an upcoming officer technical school. I feel like I've had a pretty fast-paced career, and I thought that I would share a little bit about how I got to where I'm at today, just a little bit about my experiences. So I thought that I would take a little bit of time to do that, tell you a little bit about my story, and then answer some of your frequently asked questions. So let's get to it. The first question is, why did you join the Air National Guard? I joined the Air National Guard because I'm married to a Guardsman. Daniel is a recruiter for the Idaho Air National Guard. He's been in for 13 years. I got to see him going to work every single day as a recruiter. He loved his job. He gets to essentially bring people into the Guard, help them join, help them with the entire process, answer their questions. And so I always had my own questions for him. I always was like, can girls wear makeup in the Guard? And I always had the petty questions, the little things, and it wasn't anything that I thought about doing until I realized with my civilian job that I needed to expand my resume and I needed to branch out and do something else with my life. And the Guard was that chance for me to do that. It was my chance to branch out, expand my resume, and then also to give back to the state and country. That's what really excited me about it, is the way to do something that was bigger than just me. At the time I was working for a hospital in downtown Boise, but I just didn't really feel like my life was going anywhere. So at that time I joined the Guard, and literally that's been the best decision, besides for marrying Daniel, I think that I've ever made in my entire life. The next question is, can you describe your career progression in the Air National Guard? So I enlisted on November 27th, 2013, and the way the Air National Guard works is a little bit different than active duty, so I'm going to describe how it was for me going through it. I enlisted in November, but I wasn't able to get a basic training school date until the next April of 2014. So I sat around and waited for 5 months and went to student flight, which is basically a classroom type environment where you get to learn all about the Guard, learn what it's going to be like at basic training, and you get to interact with all your future airmen peers who are going to be around you. So it's an awesome environment. If you have a chance to do student flight, I highly recommend it. I loved it. I did that for 5 months. Then I went to 8 weeks of basic training down in San Antonio, Texas, and I really loved basic training. I ended up as the top PT female. I was an honor graduate. None of that really matters. It's not important, but I loved basic training. I got to meet several really cool people. Basic training was 8 weeks. It was awesome. And when you join, they tell you you have 8 weeks of basic training and you'll never do anything like that again until you go to officer school, but that's in a second. After basic training, I was what they call a break-in training, a BIT. So I came home from basic training instead of going to technical school. Now, in the Guard, it's a little bit different because when you enlist, you already know what career you're going into. Whereas active duty, you don't find out your career and what job you're going into until you're at basic training. So I knew before leaving for basic that I was going to come home and be a personnelist. In that period of time from June until the next October, when I was able to get a school date for technical training, I came home and worked within my squadron. I was in the Force Support Squadron as a personnelist, and I basically kind of watched what they were doing and did some on-the-job training before I actually went to training. That next October, I went down to Keesler Air Force Base in Mississippi and went to Personnel Tech School. That was a 6-week-long school. It was really short, and I had a great time there. It was different than basic training, more flexible, but at the same time still rigid and structured for non-prior service members. After technical school, I came home in December of 2014, and I really loved personnel, but I knew that I wanted to do something different with my career, and I already had a degree. I graduated from Boise State University in 2010 with a degree in health education and promotion, and I thought, wow, I really want to put this degree to use. I think I'm going to look into commissioning. And again, this is different in the Guard than it is in active duty, so once more, I'll just give my kind of experience as I went through it versus the active duty side. The way it works in the Guard is you put in for a job. So I applied for a couple different commissioning jobs, and you can only apply for them when they come open. So just because you have a degree, just because there's a job, that doesn't mean you're going to get it. You have to apply for it. I was selected for commission into the Security Forces Squadron, which is a huge honor, and I don't talk a lot about that job, only because of the nature of the job. Once I was selected for commission, I began working in the Security Forces Squadron, and I started working as a personnelist because I again had to wait for a school date. Side note, one thing that they don't tell you when you join the Air Force is that sometimes you play a big waiting game. It's kind of like go to training and then wait, and then go to training and then wait, and then wait for this and wait for that and wait for this and wait for that. You kind of just wait all through your career in the Air Force. But at the same time, every step of the way, you're learning, you're growing, you're experiencing new things, so it's worth it. I was selected for commission in August of 2015, but I was not given a school date for our officer training school until the following April of 2016. Again, I waited, went to officer training school, and that was an 8-week long program, and again, I formed better relationships there than I ever thought I was going to form. That was down at Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama, and I loved officer training school for the people, did not so much love it for the coursework, only because it was very demanding, and it was one of those programs where they're teaching you to be a leader and to be a supervisor and how to run an entire, basically, troop of people, and so you definitely are set up to fail, and they're trying to see how you overcome and work through that failure. So it was a bit of a mental mind game, but once you find your groove and find your way to get through it, that's when I was able to do it. Now I'm currently at home, and now I'm waiting for my officer technical training school date. So that's going to be coming up in 2017, and until then I wait and I work, and that's about it. Right now I'm currently serving as the operations officer on our base, and I am loving that work. It's so fulfilling, I'm learning so much, and it's a great way for me to be able to maintain my military skills before I transition and go to my next technical school. The next question is, how do you commission and become an officer? I touched on this very briefly, and basically what this entails is it's kind of like working in the civilian world. If a job comes open in the Air National Guard, for instance, for an operations officer, like my position, or a finance officer, budget officer, etc., what you do is that position comes open and you have to apply for it. So you have to put together an entire package that may include like your duty history, your resume, a cover letter. It may include specific things from your career that they need to see, like your Air Force PT test. And what you do is you put in for that job and then wait. When the job closes, you get a call for an interview if you're qualified. When I interviewed for my position, I went up against 18 other people. And basically it was anyone, for me, I was an Airman first class at the time, all the way up to staff sergeants, technical sergeants, master sergeants. There were other officers who interviewed for the position. So it's basically just like a normal job interview. Everyone is interviewing together. Most of the time they put you on a board, you're evaluated just like a normal interview. You dress up in your blues, which are pictured behind me here. You go before a board, you give a board interview, and they make their decision. Now once that happens, they submit your package up to the National Guard Bureau, and the Bureau has to approve or deny you. Anyway, that was my experience, that's how I commissioned, and then once your whole package gets approved, that's when you get sent to officer training school. Sometimes you have to wait a really long time before you can go, but for me, I ended up waiting about 8 months, and it was very well worth it in the end. The next question is, how does job selection work for officers, and is it affected by your degree? In the Air National Guard, no, that's not the case. Often you can pick certain jobs. For instance, a nurse could go into a nursing career, criminal law people go into security forces, etc. But for me, my education and background is in health education and promotion. That has absolutely nothing to do with the career field of security forces that I went into. The way that the Guard sees it is they appreciate the vast and diverse background that I bring to it with the health and wellness side, because then I'm able to work with our troops on things like physical fitness, PT, proper nutrition, etc. Job selection works for officers as basically if a position opens in the Guard, you apply for it. If you're qualified, you get interviewed. If you're the best at interviewing, you get selected. Next question is, what are some things you've experienced as an officer that you had never experienced while you were enlisted? As an officer, you have the opportunity to be the supervisor, the leader. If you get deployed, you get to lead and command a group of troops. If you're back in the office, you get to oversee the entire operations for your squadron, things of that nature. So far, as an officer, some of the things that I've been able to be a part of have been job selection boards. I've been able to represent our squadron on a professional level, giving briefings to commanders. Unfortunately, you're also involved in the reprimand of troops, etc., which is definitely not the fun part of the job, but the positives of being an officer far outweigh the negatives. And from what I've seen, everything is a learning experience, and it's always something new that you can do and learn and then apply to the future. The next question is, how do you prepare for the ASVAB, which is the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test, or the AFOQT, which is the Air Force Officer Qualifying Test? And I don't know if you're a follower of my blog, but if you are, I have detailed posts about both of these, the ASVAB and the AFOQT, on my blog. There is a website out there where you can take practice tests for both of these tests. So the ASVAB is the test that you take to get in as an enlisted member of the military, and the AFOQT is the test that you take to become an officer in the military. And the way that they are different, they're both very similarly laid out. So they're very similar to an SAT style test. However, the ASVAB is long, multiple choice. You kind of have a chance to think through things. I took it approximately, I'd been out of school for about 3 years before I took it and didn't have any trouble taking it. The AFOQT is very similar to the ASVAB. However, it's very, very, very fast paced. So you have very minimal time to make your decision before you have to move on to the next question. If you would like a more detailed description test, I do have a link below in my blog on ESOS, but there's also a link below for the DoD Department of Defense testing website where you can find all the practice tests and materials to get you ready to take those tests. The next question is, how do I get my PT run time down, and how do I train for the Air Force PT test? As you know, I'm a runner, a marathoner, I love to run, and at basic training, I believe it was, I set the record for the 5th fastest run time for females that had ever gone through basic training. My time at that point in time was an 8:47, and then at officer training school, the time that I ran was an 8:28, and they said that that was the fastest time that had ever gone through there. Now, while I know that those numbers may sound a little bit fast, most people average between 12 and 14 minutes for their 1.5 mile run, which is the run distance that's required for the Air Force, in addition to 1 minute of push-ups and 1 minute of sit-ups, and that is current as of right now, but that may change in the future. What I do most often is I'm pretty much always following a running plan. For instance, a half marathon plan or a marathon running plan. What I recommend for people who are just starting out and are trying to get their 1.5 mile time down is to find something like a 5K plan and to go for it. A 5K is 3 miles, and the Air Force PT test is shorter than that. But if you pick something that's a little bit longer, train for that, do things like repeats, do things like sprints, whether it's on the track, on the road, on the treadmill. Any kind of speed training that you can do is going to help best prepare you. So when we were at basic training, the way that they had us run, which helped me go from a 10-minute 1.5 mile down to an 8:47 1.5 mile, we would do 10 minutes at a steady pace. So we would follow a person around a track for 10 minutes at the one pace. Then we would do 10 minutes of our own pace. And at that 10 minutes, I would run as fast as I possibly could for 10 minutes. Usually it was around a 6-minute mile pace. Then for the last 5 minutes, we would do 30 seconds on and 30 seconds off, or 1 minute on and 1 minute off sprint intervals. So that's running as fast as you can for either 30 seconds or a minute, and then either walking or jogging for 30 seconds or a minute. That training alone, which usually only lasted about 25 minutes, and we did it approximately 2 or 3 times a week, was really what helped me take over a minute off my time. So that's my best suggestion, is run like they run you at BMT. The next question is, how does the Air Guard impact your family, home life, and future plans? And this is a question that most often comes up. It's mostly from like spouses, and what do I expect with my spouse going to military training, and what do I expect in the future, and am I going to have to play this waiting game of waiting for orders to have a family, etc. forever? It depends on how you run your career. So for me, when I joined in 2013, it was either have a baby or join the Air National Guard. And the Air National Guard was just the little bit higher one on the totem pole at the time. I guess I didn't realize when I joined the Guard that it was going to be a 3-year endeavor of joining and then going to training, and then waiting and then going to another training, and then waiting and going to another training, etc. I don't think I realized how long it was going to be before I was actually able to be working in the job that I was going to do. Now, keep in mind, had I not have been selected for commission, I would still be working as a personnel officer as of basically a year and a half ago. So my career would have definitely balanced out as an Airman First Class, and I would have just moved up the enlisted ranks from there. However, since I did choose to go the officer route, it has again been 3, and by the time I've finished, it will be a 4.5-year journey of training and waiting and training and waiting. So it kind of has put, for us, our family plans on hold. However, that's my favorite thing about the Guard, is that unlike active duty bases, once you join a Guard, you get to stay there. I plan on doing 20 years in the military, and I plan on doing it all in the Idaho Air National Guard. You don't get moved every 2 years, you don't have to go on crazy long deployments way across the world. You can volunteer for things like that, but most often it's not required. The Air Guard impacts our family by giving us a plan for the future. It helps give us security. It helps give us motivation, drive, experience. We get to do awesome things and meet awesome people and travel all over the world. So, gosh, since I've joined, I've been to Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Ohio for the Air Force Marathon twice, which was very cool. And all of those were military related. Daniel, who again has been in for 13 years, has been places like Germany. He's been Africa. He's been all over Europe to Amsterdam. He has been to the Wyoming Guard. He's been several places around the US. He's fought forest fires. He's worked on aircraft. His resume is so vast and so broad. And I think that what the Air Guard brings to you is so far greater than any other path that I could have possibly taken. So honestly, I'm telling you, Air Force, Air National Guard, 2 thumbs up, it's amazing. The last question, which is, I'm interested in joining, where do I begin? So down below, I'm going to link the main Air National Guard page, which is goang.com. And what that does is you can type in where you live and it'll show you job openings in your area. So whether you want to be an aircraft maintainer or a chaplain, work with traffic management, they're all listed there for your base in your state. If you're here in the local area, I recommend dropping me an email. My email is linked down below, and I'd be happy to set you up with my husband. He and I both go out and meet with people. We talk to people, tell them about the Guard, and also I'll connect you with his phone number or email as well. I just want to say thank you so much for your support. Thank you for the questions. I can't believe it's been 3 years already that I've been in the Guard, and I have such a broad future ahead. I'm so excited for it, and I hope that you'll continue to be part of this journey in supporting me. Again, just want to say thank you so much. If I didn't answer one of your questions, please don't hesitate to leave a comment down below. You can email me, leave a comment, and don't forget to visit my blog to check out the rest of this post. Thanks again for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it.